Okay, excellent. So that started the recording. And as I've mentioned, so I'll share this recording and also the slides will be available afterwards. So you can refer back to them as and when you're implementing these things. So just as an introduction on what we're going to cover this afternoon. So in my opinion, the four main social media channels that will be helpful to you are Facebook. We're going to look at pages and groups and the difference between the two and which might be more beneficial to you as a community wildlife group. We're going to have a look at Twitter, and also the two others I'm going to cover are YouTube and Instagram, probably not in as much detail as the first two, but I think there will be some areas of those two social media channels that you can use to really help promote your work. Then we're going to have a look at some email marketing. I'm going to focus on MailChimp. There are obviously other systems that you can use. I just think MailChimp is easy to use. It's free to use up to a certain number, and it also covers quite a lot of the GDPR requirements. So we'll have a look at that. And then I'll just touch on GDPR at the end. In terms of if you are doing any email marketing, you'll need things like a privacy policy. So I'll just go through that with you. And then obviously this is all going to tie into, sorry, someone else just wants to get in. This is all going to tie into the new website. So we want these systems to talk to one another. You want your branding to be consistent across both the website and these social media channels. So we'll bring that all together at the end. So firstly, what I want to ask is, what is your aim? So I just want you to keep this question in mind as we go through the session. I'm going to be presenting quite a lot of information, and I really hope that it won't seem too overwhelming. But I want you to keep in mind kind of what are you trying to achieve, and which of these social channels will actually help you to get there. So is that getting people to sign up in terms of joining your community wildlife group, doing more surveys or any other activities? Or as well, social channels can be really helpful for actually raising awareness and encouraging people to share content and be sort of more aware of what's going on locally and learning from what you're doing. So if you could just keep that question in mind as we go through the session, and then hopefully at the end, you'll be drawn to one or two of the channels that you can explore in more detail as you're going forward. So to start with, let's have a look at a Facebook page. So first of all, I'll just explain what that is. So essentially a Facebook page is like having a mini website on Facebook. So it is an open public facing page that's going to be sort of a shop window to what you're doing. So you're going to have a cover photo and a profile image, and then also a short description of what you're doing. And whoever is the administrator of that group can post kind of regular news items and that sort of thing. So it's providing information about your community wildlife group. It's giving people the opportunity to get in touch with you. It's quite good for visibility. But what's happened with Facebook pages over the years is when they were first set up, they were very good for reaching new people organically. But now, as that's changed and Facebook advertising in terms of paid advertising has been introduced, the actual reach you can get from a Facebook page is quite minimal. So while it's good for visibility, it's good for your group to be there if people are searching for it. I wouldn't invest much time in developing a Facebook page and, posting on it all the time, because it's just not going to, people aren't going to see it basically unless they're actually searching for you. So I'd say even maybe once a week, fortnight might be too often. Like you could do it, a few times a month, just your big headline updates, or when it gets to your survey time, maybe you can post a bit more regularly then, but just having it really so people can find you on the site and then be directed to where they can find more information, I'd say is the key thing with a Facebook page. So I'm going to show you a quick example of what one looks like. So if we try and come out of here. Okay, so hopefully you can see a Facebook page now. So this is what it looks like from the admin side of things. So once you're logged in, so obviously you'd need a Facebook account, which can just be your private account. And then you would have your Facebook page. So as I was saying before, you've got your sort of cover photo and your profile image, your name and your username. And you want to, when you're choosing your username, you do want to have something that's going to be consistent across all of the social media channels. So if you also decide to set up a Twitter account, it's really good to have that same username there so people can find you more easily. And then you've got various different options. You can do something called a pinned post, which means that that's always going to be at the top of your page. So if you want something around the surveys, for example, during that time period, then you can have something so immediately when people land on the page, that's what they're going to see all of the time. And so this is basically just for the group admin to post updates in. So you get a little bit of engagement, people can like it, people can share it or comment on it, but you don't really get much interaction between the members. So if you did want to set up a simple Facebook page for your community wildlife group, once you're logged into Facebook, you've got some options on the left-hand side of the page down here, and one of them you can see is called pages. And there you would see the option to create a new page. So I'm not going to go through the whole process now, but I'll just show you quickly. You've got the page name. You can choose a category. So I think for the Shropshire Climate Action Group, we were using community group. You could maybe do something related to wildlife. So if people are searching by a category, then your group would be displayed. And a short description. And then once you've filled in those 3 fields, the create page button will be enabled. And also you'll see on this side of things how it's updating in real time. So you got your cover photo then and your profile picture, as I've explained before, and obviously the option to start creating some posts. The other useful thing that Facebook do is they show you on a desktop what it looks like, and then also on a mobile view. So if you've got any text, for example, in your cover image on desktop, it might look really good, but just always make sure you look at what it's going to look like on mobile, as most people will be on Facebook on a mobile device. So just make sure whatever you're posting is going to work on both devices. So once you've got your page set up, I'm just going to show you quickly if you had a post that you'd done on the website that you wanted to share on your Facebook page. So I just got this one as an example, is the Stretton's area post that they've recently put up. So I'll just hover over the URL and copy that. And if we go back to the Climate Action website, so go on to this Facebook page, and then you just click on the Create Post button, and you can copy and paste something in there. Now Facebook will automatically, if it's got an image in the blog post, that will automatically pull through, and then you can write an update. Facebook is a bit better at accepting longer updates. So when we move on to Twitter, that is a much more concise message that you'll be posting. But Facebook, you've got a bit more space to add a little bit more content. And then you can add other options. You can do things like check-in. So if you're in a particular area, that's useful, and that will sort of add information to the post. And then when you're ready, you can just click the post button. So if we just go back to the presentation. So I've been through how to set one up and share posts from the website. So any questions so far on a Facebook page before we move on to a Facebook group?
Just on Facebook generally, can you have separate accounts for personal and other uses? So is it possible to have a Facebook account just for community wildlife group activity?
So you could set up an account, but then what's quite helpful from your personal account is if you want to invite people, you may already be connected with quite a lot of people in the community anyway through your friends. So then if you wanted to invite those, if you were starting from scratch, you'd probably have to add all those people as friends again. You can do it. There's always going to be, I don't really think there's much advantage in setting up a separate account because it's not your actual profile that you're sharing, it's just the page. So people won't be able to navigate back to your personal profile and kind of see any personal stuff that you're posting. But so it is an option, but I would probably just, if you've got a Facebook account already, you can just then create the page and you can add other admins, and you don't necessarily have to be friends with that other person on Facebook. So I think that should work. Okay,
thanks.
Okay. Great. Okay, so if we have a look now at a Facebook group, so the way this is different is this is much more about engagement between members. So whereas the Facebook page is looking at just the admin posting updates, this acts more like a forum or an online community where you can have multiple people posting. So what this does is you get a high level of engagement, and it's really good for sharing knowledge between people, sharing learning, for people asking questions, which I think could be very beneficial to the community wildlife groups, because you're starting from a very good place. You've already got your membership, you've got a lot of people that are involved in the work that you do, and it would quite probably help to sort of strengthen the connection between those people if you had something like a Facebook group, and especially in these times when we can't see each other as regularly as we would like to. The one downside of a Facebook group is it is a bit more time consuming. With a Facebook page, you can get one set up in, you know, a very short space of time, and then obviously it's not much management wise to keep it updated. But a group, you would have to be just kind of monitoring it and making sure people's questions were being answered and trying to encourage that engagement between members. So you just need to bear that in mind if you go down that road. And I just wanted to show you an example so you can see the difference between a group and a page. So this is actually one that Leo let me know about, and I'm a member of. So it's called, I'm sure many of you are members as well, it's called Shropshire Ornithology. So they've set this up as a private group, which means that anyone on Facebook can see the group, but they have to request to be a member of it. So I think that's probably quite a good setup, because then you can monitor who's in the group and make sure there's nobody going to be posting spam and things in there, but it's always going to be visible if people are searching for your name, which is important. So you have your group members, and then the posts work in a similar way. So just as we did on a Facebook page, you could share updates, but then you can also give other people the opportunity to post, and you can label people so people know who the admin is and who is a member. So on this group, we've got Martin George, who's the admin, and you can see sort of people commenting and engaging with that post. And then lower down, you have this is a rising star, so you can kind of give people recognition for what if they are posting really useful content, if they're engaging well, you can just kind of give these people recognition for what they're doing and encourage that engagement. I think you can have founding members as well, so that's quite a nice touch and gives people a little bit more responsibility than just kind of liking a Facebook post on your page. So I would recommend when you set one up, or if you set one up, having the private setting and visible so people can find it but have to request to join. I'm just going to show you this from an incognito window, so when I'm not signed into Facebook. So if you're not a member of that group, this is what it would look like. So you get kind of a brief description of what the group's about, and you can see their activities, so how often they're posting, any members in the group, anyone who's recently joined, obviously no names in there. And then also something that's quite useful is the admin can set rules. So just, to be courteous and kind in your messaging and, not start any arguments or anything like that. But I think that's quite a nice touch. So everyone's on the same page when they're joining the group. And then all the user would do is just to click join, and then the admin would get a notification and they would be able to join the group, provided like the admin wanted them to join. So just going to go back now to my Facebook page and show you if you did want to set one up. So it's quite similar to setting up a Facebook page. Once you're logged into your account, you can see that these options on the left-hand side again, and you've got a groups option. And then you just want to go create new group. And again, similar thing. So you've got the group name. You can see the different options. So you can make a public one if you want, but then you're susceptible to anybody joining. So I'd probably go for the private option. And then if you've already got people on Facebook, who would be interested in this, you could invite them that way, click create. And again, you can see how it's taking shape on this right-hand side in kind of a live format. So I hope that's maybe a useful thing that you would like to have a look at in future. Are there any questions around Facebook groups? No? Okay, I will move on. So the next one we're going to look at is Twitter. So to start with, Twitter is basically a network where you can share information in real time. It's quite a useful one that you can connect with many people all over the world. So it's not so much of a private thing like a Facebook group. It's very much an open network. A lot of use on that is on mobile, as for most of these platforms, most of their use is going to be mobile. And basically what you do on Twitter is you post a tweet, which is a short message. Used to be even shorter. When they first brought Twitter out, it was 140 characters. So now they've upped that. But really what you're aiming to do is share short, sharp messages. So where on Facebook, you've got a little bit more leeway to go into some detail, Twitter is really about being punchy and concise and just sharing kind of a limited amount of information. You've got the option to add images and links and videos. So again, with stuff going onto the website, if you've got a blog post, you could easily share that on Twitter and then link back to the website. And also I'm going to talk to you about hashtags, because these are really important on Twitter. You can use hashtags on Facebook, but they don't really make a lot of difference as per my experience. But hashtags on Twitter can make quite a big difference. So what is a hashtag? Basically, hashtag is any word or phrase that follows the hash symbol. So you can't have any spaces in between. So for example, you've got hash curlew, or if you had hash curlew survey, provided there are no spaces, that is going to be classified as a hashtag. And what that does when you type that in on Twitter is it basically makes it into a link. So anyone who's looking at your profile, if you've got hashtags after your Twitter message, you can then click on those links and it will take you to everybody's tweets who's used that hashtag. So it's basically used by people as a way of searching for information on that same topic. So people will just type in hashtags to search on Twitter. So what you really want to do is you want to be using hashtags that are used by quite a lot of people. You don't want to use anything that's too specific. So if you have, for example, your community wildlife group acronym, like I wouldn't advise you to tweet that, because no one else is going to be tweeting that. So it's not going to be a useful link for people. Whereas if you, I think I've got an example here of, say, International Curlew Day. When that's happening, that would be a really good thing to use as a hashtag, because lots of people will be tweeting about that. Lots of people will be searching for that particular link. And then your posts are going to feature in that. And if people think you sound interesting and want to click on your profile, then that's how you're going to get more followers and more people interested in what you're doing. So to show you, put it into practice, if you want to set up an account, you don't have one already, if you just go to Twitter and then click sign up, it will take you through the sign up process. And then this is just basically showing you what you'll see when you log in. This is your Twitter profile and the different steps you would need to take in setting one up. So similar to the Facebook page and group, you want to have some kind of cover image. And you've again got your profile picture and your name, and then your username, like I mentioned before, if that can be the same on all of the channels, that will be better in terms of your brand consistency. Short bio, that's limited on this, I think, to 160 characters. And then you've got your link. So here it would be great to link to the website and get people going there, because then there'll be more information there about how they can sign up, how they can get in touch with you, how they can join a mailing list. And if that's one of your aims, that's where you want to be sort of sending people. And then again, you've got this option to have a pinned tweet. That's not you don't have to do that. There are plenty of profiles that don't have it, but at certain times of year, it might be really useful if you're trying to promote something or you're trying to get people to sign up, just to make that as visible as possible. So I'm going to, maybe I'll go through this slide and then I can show you an example of a Twitter account. So once you've set up your page, I'd say the first thing that you can do is to start by following other people. So on Twitter, search for relevant organizations or other people who are part of the community wildlife group. If each of the community wildlife groups are on Twitter, it would be great for you all to follow each other and, kind of retweet what everybody else is doing, because that will then help to build your profile as a county community wildlife group. So I'd start with that. And then with Twitter, it's quite important that you engage with other people. So what you don't want to do on Twitter is just constantly post new information out. It is more like an online community. So you need to be looking at what other people are doing. You need to be liking any relevant posts or that you want to support, commenting, and then sharing. They call it retweeting, because you're just copying and pasting basically someone's tweet onto your own profile. So I'd say that's quite an important thing on Twitter. You need to be engaging with other people. And then in terms of what you can post yourself, so any kind of news item that you've got on the website, you know, feel free to, you can share that as well as a link. Or any calls to action. So if you are trying to get people to sign up to your newsletter, or you've got some new information on the website that you want to send people to, those are all good things to post about. It's always good to have something that's going to draw attention to your tweet. So having an image to use or a video, they tend to get more engagement than just a kind of, I don't know, like 200 character tweet. They can often get missed in, you know, all of the tweets that are being posted every minute. So I would recommend having something that's going to be a bit more visually attractive. And then again, use the hashtags. The best way of learning more about the kind of hashtags and how to use them is just to go on Twitter and see what other people are doing. And you'll see how successful they're being, one, by their number of followers, and two, by how many likes and retweets that the posts are actually getting. So I think if you want to find out more, I would just recommend going on Twitter and looking at similar groups and seeing what they're doing, and that can really help to kind of build your confidence in and posting with some good hashtags and things like that. Another thing that you can do in your tweet is to @ somebody. So that's just using the @ symbol with somebody else's username. So this will then send a notification to that person to say so-and-so has mentioned you in their tweet. That can be quite a good thing to do. So for example, so earlier in the year, I went to an event that was run by the Marches Meadow Group at Forest Start. So if they had a Twitter account, they could have put a tweet out saying, yeah, how we had a fantastic visit to Forest Start, and @ them with their Twitter username. And then if they saw that, they would probably retweet it because it would be good for their business. And then if they've got 5,000 followers, then your profile is being seen by that many people. So that's also a really good way of, instead of just trying to follow people and get them to follow you back, if you can @ people and then they can share your messaging, you're immediately being exposed to a whole new audience. So I definitely recommend trying to do that as well. So if we have a quick look over on Twitter at the Climate Action Group Twitter account, can kind of see what's going on a bit more clearly. So yeah, very similar. I mean, most of the social channels all use a similar format with your cover image and the description. You've got your website there. You can see, so this is how many people this account is following, and then you've got how many people are following you. Yeah, so short, sharp messages. Here they've hashtag Shropshire, which you can see it creates that link. So if I, maybe if I click on one of these down here, say hedgerow, then that's going to take me to search results for the word hedgerow. So anywhere else, you're going to see all these posts by people. So you've got the Middlemarches Community Land Trust in there. And if people are searching for these things, and if you've got posts that are being engaged with, then it could be a very good way of finding new followers. So they see, oh, that looks really interesting, or that's in Shropshire, I want to get involved in that. Then they may, you know, click through. So click through to your profile, and then they had a short description, they might choose to follow you. So that's yeah, that's basically Twitter. So you can see the images are a bit more exciting than just the plain kind of messages, and you can add multiple photos in one go with one tweet. Okay. So any questions on Twitter people want to ask at this stage?
Yeah, can you limit the scope of Twitter at all in terms of geography, or are tweets accessible to everyone around the world?
Yeah, tweets are accessible to everyone around the world. I don't think there's anything you can do about actually, you know, defining your boundary. But what will happen as you start to follow more people, the kind of scope of your audience will be defined for you. So you'll only see people, you'll only kind of see tweets unless they're being promoted that are kind of relevant to who you're following. And then you kind of build up these sort of natural communities anyway on Twitter. So yeah, you shouldn't be seeing random things in your Twitter feed from, unless you're following that person. That shouldn't kind of come up and interfere with what's going on.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, Lorraine?
You said about you'd be able to put a photograph or multiple photographs up there. Mm-hmm. How?
Okay, sorry. Yes, I will. Let me go back to Twitter and we'll do a tweet. So if I just, let me move that over there. So if I go to the profile of this account, so so this is looking at it on desktop. So it's, Zoom's obviously not great for me showing you things on mobile. So you might want to be tweeting this stuff from your phone, which will look slightly different. But basically, whether you're on the app or on a desktop, you want to click on the tweet button. That will give you a pop-up and you can write in here your message. So let's go and grab this post URL that we were looking at earlier. So we can drop that in there, and then to add photos, you just click on this photo icon at the bottom here, and then it will say, where do you want to add photos from? So if you've got some in your downloads, can probably try and find some relevant ones that we could add in. So say these ones, for example, we just had a couple of those. So those ones will be dropped in. You can then change the order by, I think, by dragging and dropping them. You can add a description if you have a caption of that photo. You can tag anyone that's relevant. You can choose who replies to you. So if you want to keep it only to people who follow, or only who people you mention, or just leave it as everybody. And then again, you've got the option to add emojis, which can be sometimes useful if you're trying to get people to click a link. You can do like the hand emoji that's indicating, so it's not just about posting like laughing faces and stuff, but there are some emojis that actually make things a little bit easier for people to see quickly. Yeah, so does that kind of answer your question of how you add multiple photos?
Yes, thanks. I've been on Twitter as a follower. I've never done a tweet because I've never known how to do a tweet. So now you've
Okay, well, yeah, hopefully this. So I'm not actually going to tweet this because this would just confuse all of the climate action followers. But once you've got, if you wanted to post a link, then you can do your hashtags. So say this was going to be for that, and then when you start typing things, you'll see how relevant they are, because Twitter will tell you, okay, climate action has had 270 tweets in the last hour. So people are obviously interested in that subject and are going to be looking for that. So it would be wise to tweet things like that. So if you had, like, I think I was, gardening one afternoon, I put like Saturday gardening as a hashtag, and then like 300 people liked that tweet. So it's, yeah, it can just be, I mean, sometimes it can be very random. So you can have like the most perfectly calculated tweet and it gets one like. But you learn as you go, and when you build up a following, you learn what your followers are interested in. So yeah, but that can be quite handy to see who's, and then also on the Twitter homepage, if we just get rid of that, you will be able to see, I think, kind of what's trending. So on the right hand side over here, you see, you can see kind of top things. So if, I don't know, like for example, when the World Cup's on, like everyone's talking about that. So then it will tell you what kind of things are trending. So if you can ever tap it, if it's relevant, and you can join in with that, then that can be quite useful as well. Okay, any other questions on Twitter for now? Or I will move on to YouTube. So I wanted to mention YouTube, not necessarily as a kind of a channel where you're going to have people subscribing, because I don't know, you're very welcome to set that up if you wish, but basically YouTube is just a really useful way of uploading videos. So you get a link, and then you can share those links on Facebook or YouTube or on the website a lot more easily than if you're trying to upload these very large files. So YouTube is just a platform for sharing videos. So if you're taking a video, if you're out doing a survey, or if you're out doing an event or something like that, and you take a short video on your camera or your phone, then it's really handy to be able to upload this to YouTube. There is a little bit of editing you can also do on YouTube. So they have that kind of built-in functionality, and then you get a link generated that's much easier than to share on your other social media channels. So I would always recommend keeping your videos as short as possible. So I would say no longer than a minute. I mean, 30 seconds maximum. People's attention spans are very short, especially on social when they're being bombarded with so many messages. So yeah, try and keep videos to, I'd say around 30 seconds is probably about right. If you want to have a YouTube account, you do need to have a Google account, because YouTube is owned by Google. So you can either, once you go to YouTube, which we'll have a look at in a minute, you'll see on the top right hand side, there's the option to sign in. If you don't have an account, you can then create one, or if you're already signed in, you'll just see your little avatar there already. And then we're going to have a look now at how you add a video. So let's come out of there and go to YouTube. So I'm signed in as the Shropshire Climate Action account. So over here, this is what I meant. If you're not signed in, that would say sign in. So you can do that if you already have a Google account, or if you don't, you'll have the option to create one. I probably recommend if you have a personal Gmail account, this would probably be a good opportunity to create a separate business one, just so you know those two things aren't confused. So if you wanted to set up just a Gmail address that no one's going to email, it can just be anything at gmail.com, but you can use that for your Community Wildlife Group YouTube account. I would say that's quite a good idea. So once you set that up and you're logged in, you click on the video button here with the plus icon, and then you get two options. So we're going to go on upload video. And then when it loads, you should see a pop-up screen in the middle, which says, okay, what do you want to upload? So we've got a short video on my desktop that we can add in. So then you're going to get to this screen. So you can give it a title. You want to give it a short description. You can have your own thumbnail. So when people see the video, whether it's on a channel or on the website, they'll see the kind of first image, or they auto-generate for you. So you can leave YouTube to do its thing. I wouldn't, unless you're going to have a lot of video content, I probably wouldn't recommend doing playlists. And then I just say it's not made for kids. Once you've done that, you can go next. There are just additional options, but I just leave those for now. And then you can choose when you publish it how you want it to be displayed. So if you're doing a private video, you only want people you choose to be able to view it, then you go for that option. Unlisted would only be viewed by people who actually have the link, and then public is anyone. And so I probably go with, if you're sharing video content of say one of your events, then I just go for the public option, so as many people as possible can see it. And then it already generates from the beginning the YouTube link for you. So I just copy that to your clipboard. So you've got that. And then when you go publish, it will take some time to upload and kind of configure the video. So you can just leave that doing its thing in the background. So hopefully it should be quite quick because it's a small video. And then if you wanted to put that on Twitter, for example, or on Facebook, let's go back to the Facebook page. So I copied that, the URL that the YouTube video is going to be at. So if I paste it in here, then Facebook and other Twitter accounts should quite nicely bring up the thumbnail. Probably won't do it at the moment because it's still uploading. But then whatever you choose as that first image people see, that would be displayed here. So that's going to be really useful on things like Facebook or Twitter. If you want to get that higher engagement, you want to share a video, it's going to be a lot easier to share it as a YouTube link. So I think that was, yeah, that's everything on YouTube, unless does anyone have questions about YouTube?
It was loading up the video I was unsure of. You mentioned it had come from the desktop, but then you put it in as a link. How did you go from it having a file name on the desktop to it having a link?
Okay, yeah, sorry. So if we go create again and upload, so wherever your video is saved on your desktop. So we'll get to this screen and go select files. So it might be in your downloads folder. You might have a separate video folder for any Community Wildlife Group activity. I just put a short video as an example on my desktop. So when you go select files, it'll bring up your computer folders. So wherever you've got things saved, if you just navigate to that folder and click on the video that you want to upload, so it needs to be in an MP4 format, you just click on that, and then if you go open in the bottom right hand corner, then it will start to upload to YouTube, and that's what creates it creates the link automatically for you. So you don't have to do that. Once it's doing its thing uploading, it will automatically give you this link where the video can be viewed.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, great. So I just wanted to mention Instagram briefly. I obviously don't want to give you too much information, but Instagram is very good for sharing photos. And I understand from Leo, like some of the groups have amazing photographers. So this could be quite a useful platform as well for engaging young people, because when Facebook first came out, obviously it was very popular among youngsters. And as time has gone on and, you know, people's aunties and uncles and everything has joined, it's less cool for young people and they've moved to Instagram. So if you're looking to attract a younger audience, I'd say Instagram is the place to go. Obviously, like Facebook is still the social media giant. So having a presence on things like Facebook and Twitter is going to be important. But, you know, if you did want to use Instagram almost as a photo gallery, then I'd say that could be quite a good way to go. So similar to Twitter, you can you can follow other people and people can follow you. Hashtags are a big thing on Instagram as well. So that's again very similar to what we talked about on Twitter. You can set your account to private or public. I would say in this instance, it would make more sense to have a public account so people can see what you're posting, and obviously a younger audience. So how to set up an Instagram account is you would just go to the main Instagram URL and click sign up, and then just standard sign up details. And once you've done that, you would then have an account. You can do that on a desktop, but when it comes to actually posting photos, you need to do that from the app on your phone. So the app can be downloaded on either Android or Apple. So you can't actually post photos on Instagram from a desktop. So that's just something to be aware of, you know, before you go down that road. So in terms of adding a photo, once you've got the app on your phone, there's a button in the middle at the bottom that's got a big plus. And when you click that, then it will allow you to go into your phone and find images that you want to add. Instagram is quite big for filtering photos. So you have a lot of options for editing and adding various filters. You probably wouldn't need that if you've got really good photographers. And there's also quite a popular hashtag on Instagram that is hashtag no filter. So you could use that if you've got a stunning photograph, and that will probably be picked up by quite a lot of people. So we'll have a look at an example account. So I've just found the Shropshire Wildlife Trust Instagram account, just so you can see what it looks like as an account that's in action. So it's basically just a photo gallery. So instead of, you can add text as a kind of explanation of the photo or a caption, but the main event on Instagram is the image. So it's less important. Like on Twitter, I would say the message is the main event, whereas on Instagram, it's much more about the photo that people are worried about. You could integrate that with the website. So instead of creating a gallery on the website, you could have an Instagram account and then link that back to your web page and show some photos on there. So it's quite a good tool. If you've got a great asset, like lots of nice photos, then Instagram is quite helpful for having a way to showcase those in a nice way. So this has obviously got quite a lot of photos on it. Again, you can have your logo and a short description and then a link to your website. I'll just show you very quickly. So yesterday I set up a profile for the Shropshire Climate Action, and I haven't added anything yet. So when you start a profile, this is what it will look like. You won't have any followers or posts until you add things. And then once you've added some photos from your phone, they would then show up here. And then you can do videos as well on Instagram. So between 1 minute and 60 minutes, but yeah, I'd say the photos are the big thing there. But that would be what it looked like if you were starting from scratch. Does anybody have questions about Instagram? Nope. Okay. Okay, so a couple of tools that I wanted to talk to you about that I think could hopefully be helpful are, so we've got Canva first, which is basically an online design tool. So every time I've showed you a different social channel, you see the same format. So you've got the cover image, you've got a profile picture, and you've got the post that you're going to add. And as we talked about, it's often better if these are a bit more visually engaging and either a photo or something else. So what Canva will allow you to do is it's got loads of templates for all of these things that are already preset to the right size, and lots of ideas for how you can display things in quite a creative way. So it's really useful for creating any kind of social media post or any kind of cover photo. So let's just have a quick look at Canva. So we've got that open here. So just canva.com. You can set up an account for free. There's a paid account where you can get premium features, but you don't need that. I've only ever used the free version, and it's got more than enough features on there. So when you go to canva.com, so you can actually look at it before you've even created an account. I'm not signed in at the moment, but if you want to create stuff and save stuff, then you'll obviously need an account. But here you can see where it says create a design, and then there's a social media tab. So if you look on there, you can see there's an Instagram post, story. We haven't talked about those, but we can if you want to know more. You've got a Facebook post, Facebook cover. So all these things are actually going to be really helpful in helping you to create things that are the right size that you can upload directly to these channels and make them look really good. So we have a look at Instagram post, just so I can show you what the editor looks like. So you're taken into a new tab, and then on the left hand side you have your editing options, and they're going to show you what you can use. So when you hover over them, you'll see some of them in the bottom right hand corner say free, so that you can use any of those. If you use ones that don't say free, you'll get a watermark in the background. So for example, say you had a really good testimonial from one of your group members. You could use this one here, and all I'm doing is holding it down and dragging it across to the right. When you let go, it will automatically fit the right space. So you don't have to resize anything, that will just do it for you. This is just some text, so you could change that to your group name or the Shropshire Community Wildlife Groups, or just delete it. If you had a picture of the member whose quote it was, if you just click on that, then on the left hand side you've got a number of options. You can use one of their stock images if it's just a more general post, or you can upload a photo. So in this case, if you had an image of the member whose testimonial it was, you'd go upload, and as we looked at before, finding wherever it's saved on your own computer, you could get that up there, and then you're just, so say, yeah, it would display like this basically once you've uploaded a photo. And then if you just hold down and drag it across and drop it to where you want it on the post, there you go, it's automatically gone to exactly that size. So I'm not having to resize it or reshape it or anything, it's just going to drop in there nicely. If you wanted to change the color, so if you didn't like this green, you can just click on the background, and then in this top left hand corner here you can see the background color. You can either choose one of their preset colors, or you can create your own one, have a custom color. And then to change the text, you just want to hover over the text and double click, and then you can just copy and paste in whatever your supporter or member has said, and update their name and role. And once you're done and you're happy with it, if you click download, it will give you a suggested file type. So this is saying be best in PNG. So you can just stick with that. And then when you click on the download button, it will just go into your downloads folder on your computer. So we have done that. So now if I wanted to go over, so this was an Instagram post, I think. So, okay, well, so let's put it on Twitter instead. So if we go on here, I'm sorry, that was a bit fast. So if you click on the tweet button, and then in here, if you click on the image option to add an image, so I'm going to do that, and I'll navigate to my downloads where that post we've just created is. And then you could you post something like that in there, so it would have the picture of your supporter, and it just looks quite nice. It looks a bit more interesting than you know, just a quote that's written in the text here, a little bit more engaging. And on Canva you've got kind of endless options of what you could do with that. Really nice ways to make a Facebook cover image. So you could do things with your contact details, with your website on there, just to make it as easy as possible for people to find out more about what you're doing. So that's, yeah, I wanted to mention that to you. The second tool I was going to talk about is called Bitly. So this is basically an online tool which allows you to shorten URLs, so links. And this can be quite useful for Twitter, where you've got a character limit. So you've only got a limited amount of space on what you can tweet about. So if you had something that you wanted to tweet and then the link was just a bit too long to fit into one space, you could use Bitly. So I'll again just show you what that looks like. So you've got that here. So for this, you don't need an account. You can just go to bit.ly.com and you need to be posting your link in this white box here to shorten it. So if we go back to the post that we were looking at earlier, that's been posted by the Stretton's area group on the new website, I'm going to copy that and then I'm going to paste it into shorten your link. And if I click shorten, it then gives me this link instead, which will go to exactly the same place, but it just has fewer characters. Because if we look at this link, it's quite long. It could sort of take up space. So if you want something that's a little bit shorter and punchier, Bitly is very useful for doing that. The downside on Bitly is sometimes it results in a lower click-through rate, because obviously with this one, you can see exactly where you're going to be taken. You can see you're going to the Community Wildlife Group website, to the Stretton's Area News, and the post that's going to be displayed. Whereas with this one, people can be a little bit more dubious. They don't know what they're clicking through to. So I would say it can be useful, but use it when you have to and not all the time. And then finally, a couple of sites where you can get some nice images from. So obviously, if you know all the, with the photographer's images, maybe you wouldn't need this. But if you're looking for stock images, I would recommend going to some of these sites rather than looking on Google Images, because Google isn't really that clear on what their copyright licenses are. Whereas these sites are much more clear that you are allowed to use these and you're allowed to share them on your website. So I've got two options. And there are certainly others. So if you come across other ones, then, don't restrict yourselves to these two, but these are the ones that I use. So we've got pixabay.com. And you can obviously search in here for whatever kind of image you're looking for, or you can scroll through and see probably what are the most popular images. So say, for example, we wanted to use this image here. Then when you click on it, it will tell you on the right-hand side what the license is. So this one says it's free for commercial use and there's no attribution required. So this is a very safe one that you could use on your website or on your social media channels without being worried about any kind of copyright license or attribution that would be required. So if you just click free download, again, that will just end up in your downloads folder, and then you can re-upload that wherever you're planning on using it. On Unsplash, which is a kind of similar site, you end up here. This is the main search. So say, for example, you were looking for a bluebell photo. These are some of the results. So you get some fairly nice, decent images. So if you were just looking for a quick image on a blog post and the one you had on your phone's blurry, or you don't have one that's quite the right size or going to be a large enough file to look good on a website, this is really useful to just come in here and kind of take one of these that you can use. On Unsplash, I would recommend, if you can, crediting the photographer. So when you go download for free, then you get this little pop-up at the bottom of the screen. So it tells you who's taken it. So when you're uploading a photo to the website, I would recommend just copying that credit there. And in the title of the photo, I would just paste that in there. Or if you're posting something on Twitter, then you could even try and find him on Twitter and at him or at Unsplash. And that's just quite a nice way to, there's no requirement to do that, but I would recommend it. So those are useful sites for finding images. Any questions on those tools before we go on to looking at MailChimp? No? Okay, great. Please, sorry, I'm kind of racing through this, but I hope it's useful and you're kind of taking lots in. So MailChimp, I want to look at this in terms of email marketing. So some of you probably already use this. or you're going to have your own newsletter mailing system set up. But I think MailChimp is quite a useful email marketing tool. You can do a lot with the free account. You can have up to 2,000 contacts before it starts to charge you, and you can send loads of campaigns a month before you start being charged. So I'd say it's yeah, definitely worth looking at to start with. So creating an account, you just need to go to mailchimp.com and they'd either have an option to sign in or start an account. So if you click on that and follow the steps through, because you're already in a very strong position that you already have a list of contacts, I just want to do a walkthrough on MailChimp to show you how to import your data, and then also how to set up a campaign and send it, just so you're kind of familiar with it if you haven't used it before when you come to set one up. So I'll come out of here and go over to MailChimp. So I just set this kind of trial MailChimp account up yesterday. So when you're logged in, this is what you're going to see. This is the MailChimp dashboard, and then you've got several options down the left-hand side. So the first option we'll start with is audience. So you can see there's just one subscriber on there, which is the email address that I signed up with. So if we go to the manage audience option, and if you go import contacts, then you've got a couple of options for this one. So it will ask you how you'd like to do that. You can either, if you've got it in an Excel file already, you can just upload that directly, or you can copy and paste if you have them in a spreadsheet. So just for now, I'm going to do the copy and paste option. So it suggests the format to you that you can use, having the email address, first name, last name, and address. So all I really use on MailChimp is an email address and a first name. But whatever details you've got about your supporters, if you want to store them in MailChimp, then you can just do one column per set of data. So for this one, I am going to use that as my email address. And then I've got my first name. So I just copy and paste that in there. It automatically spaces it for you. So you do need to copy and paste. You can't just start typing information in there because the spacing and it kind of won't recognize the columns properly. So copy and paste in your members. You continue to organize. You'll want to leave them as subscribed to start with, because everyone on your mailing list will have agreed to that they want to hear from you. So you want them to be subscribed to your list. And then I would just tick this update any existing contacts. So maybe this isn't that important for the first time round, but as you continue to add people to MailChimp, if any details have changed, that will just update the existing contact rather than creating a new record. So then we'll go continue again. You can use the tagging option if you want. I don't really use this because none of the audiences that I manage are big enough to need to differentiate between them. But if you wanted a reminder that you added these in October 2020, or that these are the members of your group, and maybe you want a different set of supporters or subscribers as your admin, then you could use the tagging system to do that. Or if you don't want to, you can just go continue to match without filling anything in there. And then you need to match the columns from this information that we pasted in earlier. You need to tell MailChimp what that information is. So the email address, it's already picked up, and it hasn't recognized this as a first name. So you need to hover over the pen icon, and that's the first option that's come up. So first name. So this is important because if you're sending out an email to your list of subscribers and you want to put dear first name, if this is set up correctly, then MailChimp will automatically pull all the first names from your subscriber list and put them into the email. So then you get much nicer personalized emails. Because if you just write dear supporter or dear member, then that is not going to have the same effect of actually writing to somebody personally. So that's a good thing about MailChimp. It will do that automatically if you've got, they call them merge tags, but you need to make sure that they're set up correctly so they're pulling through the correct information. So we'll click confirm on that. So once all that information is set up, then we can go finalize import. It will just review what you've done so you can, check you're happy with everything. And then when you go complete import, it will be come up with successful. So now I'm just going to show you quickly about starting a campaign. So a campaign is just an email, basically. They've got various templates that you can use. I would say setting up your first email campaign can be a little bit time consuming, but once you've got one that you're happy with and you like the layout, then you can just, for future campaigns, you can just duplicate that campaign. So you can just go in, maybe change the images, change the text, but it's going to be so much quicker, you know, going forward. So don't be put off if it takes you a little bit of time to setting up the first one, because then going forward it should be a lot quicker. So you will, when you click I want to create a campaign, you'll see this screen. You want to give it a name. This name is just for your reference only. So this is not what your subscribers will see. So for this one, I'm just going to call it test. But you might want to have October newsletter or Christmas update or something like that. You can see who it's going to. So if you did want to change who it's going to, you can come in here. You can only choose if you want it to go to a subset of your members, you can do that. You can create a segment within your audience. But I think generally, I mean, what I tend to do with sort of smaller audience groups is just to send it to the entire list. So I would probably start out with that. Then this option to personalize the to field. This is what we were just talking about with that first name merge tag. So if you want to use things like dear first name and have MailChimp pull that through, you're going to want to tick this box here. So yeah, you want to personalize the to field. And then you're going to select that as first name because you want it to say dear first name. You can have the option of last name or first name and last name, but generally I think it works best with just the first name. So we'll click save. And then you want to work through these options basically. So you can say who's it coming from. You can change it to your community wildlife group name. Sometimes it is, if you've got new people joining, it can have a higher open rate if you have somebody's name there rather than a group name. But if people are, you know, if your group members know you anyway as the group name, then maybe that won't be necessary. You can change the email that it's coming from. So if you want people to reply to a particular email and not your personal email, then you can fill in that information there. Then you've got the subject. So a MailChimp's quite helpful. It will try and guide you as to what is a good subject line. So trying to keep it short. Don't use loads of emojis. I think emojis were good at one time when not many people were using them in a subject, and then they had a lot higher open rates, but I think everyone's caught up with that now. So they don't make that big a difference anymore, unfortunately, but it does add a bit of color, so it's quite nice. And yeah, don't use too many characters or too many exclamation points and things. The preview text is what you'll see. So when you get your emails in your inbox, the subject is the first bit, and then the preview text is the next bit of text you see moving along. So you can choose what you want people to see there and just save those. So for now, let's just fill in something there so we can move on to the next bit. And then you get to your the actual email. So if we click in here, design email. And then wait for it to load. And it will give you some templates to get started with. So you can choose, I mean, some of these will be in the premium account, so you can't always access the best templates with the free account, but you can get kind of quite a good idea of using a photo and some text and a nice button. So if we click on this first one here, and then this is what the MailChimp editor will look like. So on the left-hand side, you have your email. And then on the right-hand side, you've got all of the different options that you may want to add. So you can do, yeah, sort of a box text or an image and some text. Or here you've got your preset options. And then to edit any of this, all you want to do is hover over each of the blocks, and then you see that editing button again. If you click on that, it will then open a different set of options over here, and you can upload your photo, your logo. You can change the style if you want to have a border. You can align it in different ways. So you generally get these three options of things that you can do: the content, the style, and then the settings. And that's what you want to just work through this kind of template. So you're going to have your logo, the title of your email, maybe a nice photo of an update, some text on what you're doing. The buttons are really useful. So if, for example, you want people to sign up for your surveys, you could send this out and then put on the button, sign up here, link it to your website page where you'd have a nice sign up form, and then get people to, go straight through to that link. And yeah, there again, you've got other buttons that you could add. I'm just going to, because it won't let me send it if I've got lots of placeholder information. So I'm just going to try and delete some of this stuff, and then we can actually send it and see what happens. Because the other good thing about MailChimp is you have quite a lot of analytics options afterwards. So you can see how many people have opened your email, who's clicked on the link, how many people have opened your email multiple times. So that can be quite good, especially if you then want to move on to doing more targeted marketing. If, for example, you had 10 people click through to your survey sign up form, but then they didn't actually fill in the form, you'd actually be able to see who those people were. So you could contact them again and say, oh, I think you were interested in, or something, so they don't know you know that information, but something a bit broader around why not sign up for our survey, or we've got a special training event coming up this weekend where we can show you how to survey. And then you can be a bit more specific and targeted and trying to get those conversions. So let's just change that to test email. So when you're done editing, it auto saves quite frequently anyway, and then when you're done, you just kind of go save and close. This top menu here is quite useful. So you can preview your email before it goes out by clicking on enter preview mode. So this will show you everything you've done so far. So who you're going to send it to, what it's going to look like, who it's coming from, and then your subject and preview text. And then another thing I would highly recommend is sending a test email. So you can send it to yourself, you can send it to multiple people, breaking it up with some commas, just to see what it's actually going to look like when it lands in people's people's inbox, and then also just test all the links and make sure they go to where you want them to. So let's see if I can now send this. Okay, cool. So once you're all happy that it's, you can kind of double check who it's going to. Once you're happy with that, then you get these 3 buttons at the top. So you can send it or schedule it or save it as a draft. So I'm going to click on the send button, and then I'm going to check my email and we can see what it's come out like, and then come back and have a look at some of the analytics. So let's go over here. It should have gone to this email. Sometimes it will land in people's promotions tabs as well. So just in case you can't see it straight away, then it's always worth checking in there as well. Let's just come back to that in a second. So if we go back to all campaigns, then once you've sent one, you'll see it in the list. So you can see it here, it will say it's sent. So at the moment, nobody's opened it and no one's clicked on anything, but you can then click view report. And this will kind of give you a breakdown of what's happened with your email campaign. So if you scroll down, you can see it's successfully gone to 2 people. So that's quite handy if it bounces back from anyone. You can see if there's a problem with an email address or a typo, it will highlight there which ones haven't been successfully delivered. And then here you get how many opens, last opened, who's forwarded it, how many people have clicked on it, and kind of a performance over time. So this graph would then change based on how many people are opening it. These are the links that were featured in the email. So obviously that's not really relevant now, but if you had one that was going to the website or you wanted people to sign up for something, then you could click on that and it would show you a list of people that have actually clicked on that link. So that's just the MailChimp link. So that's not very helpful. And yeah, obviously we can't see a lot because it's only gone to 2 email addresses. But that can really help you learn from your campaigns. I think all of these tools I've talked about today can be very useful, but you do need to plan in some kind of review So every sort of, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, see what's happening with what you're doing on social media. Are you actually getting more people signing up? Are people more engaged with what you're doing? Because there's no point posting all this content out on these sites if it's not actually resulting in any new supporters or members for your groups. So you think about what your aim is again, and then if it's not working, you know, we can tweak things. You can use slightly different strategies. You're maybe you can focus on a slightly different social media channel, put more effort into one more than the other. So it's always about measuring what you're doing and then reviewing it and implementing any change. And that comes back to MailChimp as well. If you're sending out these amazing emails, but no one's opening them, then obviously you need to sort of change that strategy. So I think I've covered everything that I wanted to with MailChimp. Any questions about MailChimp? Okay, I will just move on then to the final bit about GDPR, which I'm sure all of you love. So GDPR is a necessary evil. Well, it's so basically if you're doing any kind of if you're emailing anyone, doing any kind of email marketing, you've got to have a privacy policy in place. You've got to tell people how you're managing their data, where it's being stored, how often you review it, when you're going to delete it. And you need to think about those policies as a group as well. So if somebody leaves your group, do you keep their email address and name in case they ever want to sign up again, or do you delete them from your system? And they're sort of decisions that you need to take as a group. And then you need to explain that in your privacy policy. So wherever people are signing up on the website, wherever people are putting in any kind of contact details or personal information, you need to have a statement that says, you know, we take your privacy very seriously. We'll only use this for the purposes of contacting you, or, you know, whatever you're going to do, sending you a newsletter. Here's our privacy policy. So I'd highly recommend one of the first things you do is make sure you've got a good privacy policy in place. I've put a link in here which goes to the ICO website. There's loads of great resources on that website, lots and lots of templates. So yeah, I'd recommend having a look through that just in terms of the wider GDPR kind of regulation. And then also you can use that as a template for your privacy policy. So download it, it's in quite clear headings, and you can just enter the text for how make it fit your group basically. And once you've done that, you can either email it to me and I'll add it to your web page, or there are some video tutorials around changing links on web pages. So you just want to make sure if it says, you know, read our privacy policy for more information, that privacy policy bit wants to be a link that people can click on and read your privacy policy. So, you know, I'm more than happy to help out with that when you get to it, or if you can watch the tutorials and then implement that. I think that's really important before you start sending out MailChimp emails and things like that. So just kind of completing the circle, I guess, from where we started on what will help you to achieve your aim. So we're thinking about the website. It's great that we've got that up and running now. And then all of these other tools that we've talked about today are going to be, they all need to connect to one another. You need to be one group across all of these different platforms. So it's very important to keep your messaging and your kind of brand and who you are similar across everything that you're doing. And if people are signing up to newsletters or to join your group mostly through the website, you're really going to be wanting to use these social media channels to push people towards completing those actions. But again, so it needs to come back to, you know, what are you aiming to do and how are you basically going to use these channels to help you achieve what your aim is. So I really hope that that has been useful. It's been a bit of a whistle-stop tour across a lot of different platforms, but I think they all show you a bit of value in terms of how you can raise awareness of what you're doing and hopefully get some new members. So happy to have discussion now. Any further questions? We can go over anything again that hasn't been clear. And also I just wanted to point you in the direction of YouTube. If you don't have an account on there, you don't need one to watch any more videos, but there is a ton of information on all this stuff that, you know, people do for a living. That always, if you want to grow your Facebook audience or grow your Twitter following, there will be information on how to do that on Twitter. So this has been very much an introductory session. And if you want to know more, you know, you can always ask me, or there's a lot of information out there that will help you in with these guided walkthroughs as well. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. And now I hand the floor over to you.
Lizzie, you mentioned blogs a couple of times.
Yeah.
Do they have a part to play in this?
Yeah, so that's really with the new website. So I can, let's go onto the new website and have a look at that. So what I mean by blogs is on each of the Community Wildlife Group kind of home pages. So let's have a look at Stretton's area, for example. So they have this section here called latest news. So you can have various sections like this. You could have them with different titles. So you could have more of a blog if you wanted to, or you could have something around events. And then in the website tutorial videos, I show how you can add these posts. So when I mentioned blogs, what I was referring to is updating and posting blogs on the website and then using the social media channels to share those blogs. Yeah, does that answer your question?
It does.
Lizzie, about the website itself, you've just mentioned the website video tutorial.
Yeah.
Where do I find that?
So some of them, so I'm creating tailored tutorials for the 4 groups that have been supported by the Stepping Stones project, but they will broadly relate to all the groups, so anyone can use them. I've done all of them except for the Upper Oni group, that's next on my list, and they've been shared with those 4 groups so far, and just to get some feedback. And then I'm basically going to create a page on the website that's not publicly visible, but all of you will be able to see, and it'll be divided into different sections. So you'll have like a general videos for anyone that wants to see how to add an image or to add a blog post to the website. And then for each of the 4 groups, there'll be the more tailored ones. But like I said, they do cover most of the same stuff. So feel free to watch any of them. But that should hopefully be available in the next week or so.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Any other questions?
Hi, Lizzie. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Chris here.
Hi, Chris.
Just the tutorial that you've just been through. Will you? It looks like you're recording this. Will you be making that available to the other groups as well?
Yeah, so anyone can watch this. I will upload the video to YouTube, and so I can just share it as a link, and you can, anyone can rewatch it. I'll also share the presentation, so you'll have the slides if you want to go through those. There's a few links in there on setting things up. So yeah, if you don't want to rewatch the whole video again, but they will both be available.
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay, great. So I just wanted a quick question. Are any of the groups using some of these social channels already?
CamLad's got both Facebook and Twitter pages, but they're not really, I should be the one updating them, but I haven't been because I haven't really known what to do. So this has been very useful. Thank you.
Okay. No, that's great to hear. Yeah, it can be, yeah, I guess that's something to bear in mind as well, that it is, once you set these things up, there is always that time to maintain them as well. So yeah, if you just want to focus on maybe one of the channels to start with and just kind of see how that goes, then, for the other groups, then yeah, just making sure you can maintain these things, because it's more time consuming than you might think.
Yeah, 3 parishes does have a Facebook page as well. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Great. Yeah, well, I think you're already in a really strong position, because you're all starting with well-established groups. So it's not as if this is a new thing and you're trying to attract new members. It'd be, if you set up a Facebook group and then send that around to your mailing list, you'd already have a number of people who want to be involved, who want to be sharing information. And especially at this time when we've been so limited in the events we've been able to do this year, then hopefully that will help to kind of build those connections again between these groups. And then actually the other thing I was going to mention, sorry, somebody else has a question?
Yeah, no, just going to say I did miss the audio. I had technical problems and missed some of the audio for the Facebook presentation. Did you make it clear the difference between a Facebook page and a Facebook group?
Yeah, we went through, there were 2 separate slides looking at the difference between a Facebook page and a Facebook group.
Yeah, thank you. Because one of our problems in Clear Hill is it looks like historically we've got a Facebook page, and yeah, I'm looking to move that to be a Facebook group. So I assume that's what you would recommend.
Yeah, I explained at the beginning, a Facebook page is fine for visibility, but don't spend too much time on it, because it's very hard now to reach people organically with a Facebook page. Unless you're going to commit to some serious Facebook advertising, you're not really going to reach new people with a Facebook page. So, you know, spend 20 minutes setting one up and post a couple of times a month if you want to, but the Facebook group is where you're going to get a lot more engagement, and also, and it's going to, I mean, it is kind of more time consuming to manage, but once it's up and running, if you can actually get members answering each other's questions, then it should take a little bit of pressure off you as an admin, because you're not going to be the one who's having to post constantly. So yeah, I recommend it. Basically, a Facebook group is a good way to go.
Great, thanks.
The other thing I was just going to mention was, when or if you do set up these social channels, it'd be really good to add them to the website. So if people come to the website first and want to see your social media presence, then you know, you've got your Twitter icon and Instagram or whatever else. So if you and either feel free to put them on your Facebook page if you want to. If you want any help, just send me the links to your social accounts, and then I can add the icons, and that will also improve people going between the two. So whether they're either coming from social media or from the website, people can easily navigate between kind of all your presence online. Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Are there any final questions anyone wants to ask?
I'll just say thank you again, and goodbye, really. So thanks.
Thank you very much. I can let me stop sharing my screen now so we can actually see each other
Could I
again.
yes, thanks again. But I just wondered, will there be a listing of the people who've participated, and will they each be happy to be contacted by the other if need be?
For this Zoom session?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I've written down everyone who's joined. So I can, yeah, if everyone's happy to share details and things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, sorry. One of the things I think I would like to try and do is get some better collaboration between the different groups and the people who are behind the technology behind the different groups. So I know we've got to be careful with GDPR, but it'd be nice if I could sort of coordinate some emails out to the group web editors and maybe the social media editors, so we can have maybe a MailChimp list that everyone's happy to use, that we can send out any information that we have that maybe the sort of social media or the website editors would benefit from, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're listed as Vodafone Smart N9. So who is it behind the voice?
Who the heck am I? Yeah, it's Chris here, Chris Markman. Yeah, I fired up my Zoom session, and unfortunately I was told that my browser is out of date, so I couldn't actually run the audio through my PC. So I've actually fired up on my laptop, on my mobile phone, the audio element. So apologies for the confusion.
And apologies from me, I'm using my wife's laptop, so it is Richard Gulliver speaking.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think that could be very useful as well. And in terms of ongoing, so I mentioned YouTube is obviously a good resource for learning more about this stuff, but there is also a company in Shrewsbury called InSync, which I can just write in the chat the how it's spelled. It's got an H on the end. And they often run free webinars on things like social media or Google Analytics or SEO. So if you sign up to their mailing list, then they run some really good sessions, and they've been doing it for years and are very experienced. They're very expensive if you ever want them to do any actual work for you, but the webinars they run are really good. So if you can look out for those, I'd highly recommend signing up for them.
There are some free sessions from time to time run by the Marches Growth Hub. So it's worth looking out for those as well.
Yeah. So if we had that mailing list set up, it would be really useful to actually share. We can share ideas like that if you've come across a useful webinar around, or some of the Divi elements, learning to use the new WordPress site. That would be quite a useful network to share information about how everyone is getting on social media and updating the new website. So yeah. Okay, excellent. I think that's it for this afternoon then. So thank you very, very much for giving up your time at the weekend. It's really great to see you all. And yeah, I hope you found it useful, and I will circulate the recording as soon as it's up on YouTube.
Thanks, Lucy.
Yeah.
Many thanks again.
Thanks, Lucy. Yeah.
Thanks very much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye.